All right, y'all. So, just like I promised, I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story, okay? If you read the ebook, you got a little piece of that. But basically, I was 9 years old when my mother passed into the hands of the Lord, okay? But she was sick for quite a while before that, fighting with cancer. And, my mom was the kind of a person that was like the life of the party. I mean, everybody loved my mom. All the mothers in the neighborhood, she was like the one that got everybody together for play group. And we always had people at our house on both sides of my family, big family, Irish on both sides. So music is like a really important part of my family culture growing up, okay? So my mom played the guitar, piano, mostly mandolin, and she sang. She loved music. It was a huge part of her personality, her life. And so when she was, even if she had been healthy, she would have wanted me to learn an instrument. That was like, and I wanted to, because that was just part of, it's like some families are all basketball, like a friend of mine was like that. Some families are really into whatever, but my family is into music. That's just a part of it, okay? So when my mom was getting really sick is when she passed down to me. I'm the oldest in my family, the oldest child, and she gave me this violin, okay? This violin had come down from Ireland and was a family heirloom, and I don't think she even realized how precious it was, although she felt that it was a precious gift that she gave to me. But you can look inside of some instruments like violins and you can see the year that it was built. And this violin, I kid you not, was built in the 1600s. I mean, and even today, a lot of violins are handmade. So that is pretty amazing. And I was like, whoa. So all of that together, my mom's sick, family heirloom, the Irish thing, it was all like, for a kid, it's like almost mystifying, like, whoa, this is important. So I knew that it was important to learn this instrument. So, and I was in public school, and back then, at my school, they had the capability of teaching every kid an instrument, and you could pick either band or orchestra. So I already had the violin, okay, and my mom was playing all stringed instruments, right? So I wanted to learn the violin. That's what I went into. I went into orchestra. And it was 2 years in school. If I remember rightly, it was grade 3 or third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. So actually, well, maybe 3 years. It was either 2 or 3 years where you're part of the orchestra. And you would learn like basic songs, and you have all your friends around and you're playing the violin. And hey, I mean, I fooled around like any other kid and stuff like that. And I wasn't like totally locked in, but I started picking up and I started to get a little bit of the joy of music. Well, fast forward, my mom gets really sick, okay? So I learned this song, and I think, the orchestra leader, our teacher, kind of arranged this. Like at the time I didn't know. But I was able to play this song, The Irish Washerwoman. I don't know if you've heard that. You've heard that? It's like a really fun, it's a reel or a jig kind of thing. And basically, I learned to play it, and I memorized that thing, man, because I knew that my mom was going to be there when I played it live in front of the whole school. And there were other kids playing that were older than me, way better than me, okay, that were doing like this recital as a part of like, the whole orchestra were playing a bunch of songs and the band was there. It was like, to me, it was like one of the biggest events of my life as a kid. And I got up and played the Irish Washerwoman, and it was like really fast. I learned how to play it so well, memorized it, that I played it once, kind of da 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 da, and then the next time I played it really fast, and then the third time I played it even faster, and of course everybody went crazy, but everybody knew my mom was there, and that was one of the last things that she did. She got out of the house. My dad and some other relatives, if I remember right, brought her there. It was like a major thing. And that was like Not long after that did she actually go home to the Lord, okay? So that marked my life. So that after my mom actually died, I felt this weight on me, in part 50% good, 50% maybe too much pressure for a kid, right? Because I had this like obligation that I was going to honor my mom's request, because one of the last things she told me was keep playing the violin. And now she wrote me a letter, as she wrote all the kids a letter. And in the letter, it wasn't about the violin, it's about music, you know, and how music is a gift from God, and that it's a blessing. It wasn't like a manipulation, but as a kid, it was like, oh my God, I have to do this because my mom wants me to do this, as opposed to I like doing this, I want to do this, you know? Those are two totally different things. Now you can have both at the same time, but one without the other is a different ball game, okay? So anyways, my mom passes, and I continued to take violin. By that time, I was out of that school, and the next school went to private school. They didn't have, it was smaller, they didn't have an orchestra. They didn't have, a lot of the students were not even playing music. That was just, you know, cultural change, right? A different school, different town. And so, but my dad said, hey, do you want to keep taking violin? I said, yes. I felt the obligation. So I started taking violin lessons actually from this gentleman who, him and his wife, they were both members of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Like, you know, you can't be in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra if you're not really, really good. And he was really amazing violinist. Him and his wife both wonderful people, you know, and my dad would drive me after school, would drive me to this gentleman's house, and he would give me a violin lesson. So I started to get better and better at the violin, and to play more complicated songs and stuff, you know, from when I was younger. But there was this powerful moment. How many of you have had, you know, life-changing moments like this that you were not expecting? That's how God reaches in and intervenes in our life. Sometimes it's like, boom, like a shock. You know, you're just going along doing what you think is the right thing, and then bam, God does something and you can't even understand it. You know, I'm still looking back doing this course, and I'm thinking, wow, like I'm so thankful that this happened, okay? And what it was is I was just sitting. It was like we were both on these high stools, you know, in this guy's house. Beautiful vintage stuff everywhere. I mean, they were really into the violin, classical music. They were like, just, that's what their thing was, you know? And he just looked at me. I had played the little piece that he had asked me to prepare. That's what lessons are usually about. And, you know, there was a few things he probably said, oh, we got to work on this one part. But he said, hey, that was good. And he said, and he just looked at me at one point in the lesson. He just looks at me and he says, you know, I really feel that you have a gift to do this. You could do this full time, like me. You know, he was basically saying, like, you have a gift to be able to do music full time if you want to. You have what it takes, you know? And I was like, wow, that's awesome. But that wasn't it. Then he shifted into this like real personal, and he never really got personal with me anytime before or after that. And I'm like 11, 12 years old, 6th grade, okay? But he just looks at me and he says, but I don't see that you really like this. You don't have, he was trying to find the words, and he says, you don't seem to have like a passion for this. And then he explained that him and his wife, they love it. They just love classical music. But he was, you know, some people are really stuck up and you have to do it a certain way. He wasn't like that. I don't know if he's a Christian. I don't know who or what he was, okay? But he was a kind person. And he said, I think you have a gift for this, but it doesn't seem like you really like it. You don't have a passion for it. He said him and his wife had a passion for classical music, and that was one of the great joys of their life. But he said, you don't seem to have that passion. And he just looked at me, waiting for me to like respond. And as a kid, I was like blown away because it was true. It was the truth. Okay. So I just was unlocked in that moment. That's what this mindset needed tutorial is about. It's to unlock you. It's if there's any shackles on you, if there's anything that brought you to this course, that you're doing it for the wrong reasons, if you will, or you're doing it, maybe your reasoning or intentionality has to be kind of like purified so that you can actually learn the guitar like quickly and well, you know? If you're trying to climb a hill and you have stuff all attached to you, climb a mountain, it's going to be a lot more difficult. And so I just looked at him and said, well, you know, I really want to learn the guitar. Because what I didn't share in my story is that when my family all gets together, they don't play any classical music. They play bluegrass, Irish at that time, rock and roll, you know, songs by heart. And my uncles were the ones that I looked up to that played the guitar, because I was so attracted to it, because they could just open the guitar case, pick up the guitar, and they could just go. And they could say, hey, what key is that song? Bam, bam, bam. And they could just do it. Or sometimes they would just play. They wouldn't even say anything. They could just play together. You know, they grew up playing together and stuff. But it was like, whoa. Like, I wanted that. I wanted to be a part of that. And I wanted the joy and the fun. Now I know I could have probably figured that out with the violin. But that's not the trajectory I was on. I was in a classical stream that I didn't like. You know, I probably should have said, hey, I'd like to learn the Irish fiddle, or I'd like to learn how to play by ear. But I didn't even know as a kid that you could do that. And this gentleman was not that kind of a teacher. So his honesty and what he saw on me or in me unlocked me so that I could actually do what I was called to do, which a big part of my life has been the guitar. And here I am, teaching you, sharing with you, mentoring you in the guitar. God is good. So I'll just kind of end this little testimony story part with that, just to say, be unlocked. Be unlocked to follow your destiny as we get your, you know, a new mindset to be able to learn this awesome instrument of the guitar. God bless you guys. Thanks. We'll see you in the next lesson.